Afternoon, everybody. Today is Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. I'm Bruce and I'm presenting today. Uh, as always, we'll have videos, we'll have news followed by some videos, and then we'll have question and answer. The links to these videos and news are up on DVMUG BBS. And for those of you that uh, have access to that, all you got to do is go and double click on the DVMUG folder, open up my email, click on one of the uh, 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 options that you're going to have over there, attachments that is that you have over there, and watch whichever whatever you're interested in. For those of you that don't have that access, please contact John Sobrero or Ann, and they'll guide you through it so you can see it next time. Also, the links to those videos will be posted on the DVMUG, the Zoom chat, and you don't have to go to the BBS using if you're going to go to the Zoom chat to get your URLs. Another reminder, this meeting is being recorded. Let's all stick to the subject and hope this all turns out. So, uh, this week I have, I don't have much news, but I have stuff that some think that might not happen, but anyway, um, let's move on to the news. And the first one is Apple, and this is sort of a rumor, sort of a news, have been experiencing with a larger iMac, excuse me. It means instead of 24 inch, they're thinking up to 32 inches and running the Max processor, whatever the M4 Max processor that they're working on. We don't know when. Everybody's predicting in 25, but we'll see if and when it gets here. And then the next one is here's my phone is getting long in the tooth, and I'm thinking of upgrading. But here's one that they're saying, uh, in order if you want Apple AI. The iPhone SE 4 might be the cheapest way to get in Apple Intelligence. It will come with 8 gigabytes of RAM. It looks like a 14-inch, iPhone 14, and has Face ID, USB-C, and an OLED display. It's the cheapest. I think it's something like $500 or something. And it gives you all the options. The only thing that's not on is the cameras are not all that powerful as they will be on the 15 Pro or something like that, that you pay a lot more money for. So this is worth looking at. And the next one, the last one is here's something that Apple went after, and it's about what we are about to or might be looking at a year or two from now. So here it is. According to Cult the Mac, Apple went after this designer, Antonio De Rosa, who posted an image of the next Apple phone. And here it is. It's a fold. Um, it looks really slick. And they told him that he's going to have to alter some features because it looks too close to be true. So make of it what you will. Apple did reach out to this guy, tell him tone it down because you're too close to the real thing. So we might be looking at a fold like other phones out there. That's all for the news. So let's move on to what we're going to be looking at as far as videos. So let's on and see what the video is about.
Yeah. Bruce, before you get into that, in case some people are taking that as gospel, it's all rumor. Nobody really knows yet, but it's just speculating, right?
That's correct. It is a rumor. They rate it on how much percentage of a rumor it is, but it's still a rumor. Uh, it's uh, it's a speculation. Basically, we really don't know. That's what people are speculating. That's
As
correct.
was the
Thank you.
SE4 you mentioned, right? That's not a phone that exists yet.
Um, I thought what I read, and if anybody's got any more ideas, was that phone does exist, the SE4.
I thought the slide you had said
No, no,
might
no,
be
no,
out next
no.
year.
That's a rumor, and it's not even going to be this year. It may be ne late next year. It's lots of rumors, but that's a really totally
Right.
speculation.
Late the election. It's not. Okay, I'll take that back. It's not in design yet, but they're expecting it to come out next year.
Yeah, it's not in, the other rumor is not a rumor anymore. In 2 weeks, on Monday, there will be new iPhones and iOS, new iOS, and pretty strong rumors of maybe a iPad mini and new AirPods, not new Macs. New
Oh,
Macs, rumor later in October, M4s.
by the way, the link for that news story on the Cult of Mac story, when you click that link, it opens an NPR page. It's not what
Not the
it's
right page.
it's nothing like that story. But that photo to me of that folding Apple device, that doesn't look like it could be anything close to a real, I mean,
Well, that's
real. I
total
mean,
rumor.
there's a
That's
lot
total.
about that photo that just doesn't look right at all. Like both halves have the same buttons. Why would that be? I mean, there's a lot about that doesn't look. Oh
A
no, I'm wrong
foldable,
about the buttons, but
a foldable iPad or iPhone, and there's lots of rumors about that. That's a long ways off, if ever.
yeah.
So
Also,
that's
Mac
what this.
Mini, pretty strong rumors, lots of them of a new Mac Mini that's the size of the Apple TV, like a hockey puck. Maybe by the end of the year, maybe not till the first of next year.
Maybe in two
Maybe
weeks we'll
never.
find out. Who knows? One more
But
thing, right?
but that SE rumor or that sounded real good. Supposed to be the cheapest, and it comes with the amount of RAM that's needed for Apple Intelligence. Um, and the rest is the same, all USB-C and good looking screen. I wonder if that's going to become something we're going to be looking forward to, but this, um, maybe not. Let's just put it that way.
There was a whole long discussion on a recent Macworld podcast about their feelings about the current SE, that it's totally out of date and built on old architecture. And basically they were saying it totally needs to be revamped and that nobody should buy an SE now. You should wait for that new generation to be to be announced at some point.
Well, that's for the rumors. That's as much as I can I have with as far as rumors are concerned. So let's move on. And the first video is turning off the caps lock and other cursor indicators on your Mac. Um, I'm showing this because on Sonoma, there is a new caps feature that indicates what keyboard you use. The indicates if you're using caps lock, caps locks, and so on. I had an incident some time ago where I was in a different keyboard and everything was coming out completely wrong until I figured out that it was a completely keyboard. So let's see what he's got to say about that. This is Gary from MacMost.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let me show you how to turn off the caps lock indicator and other cursor indicators in macOS. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now, a new feature of macOS Sonoma shows an indicator under a text cursor when you have the caps lock on and in a few other situations. So for instance, here I am in TextEdit, and if I press the caps lock key on my keyboard to turn on caps lock, you can see how I get this indicator under it letting me know that the caps lock key is on. This could be very useful if you accidentally hit caps lock. You know that what you're about to type is going to appear in all capital letters, and you can correct it before you start typing. I like this feature personally. I never use the caps lock key, so I like this indicator to see if I accidentally turned it on. And I think other people might find it useful if they turn on the caps lock key just to type a word or two and want to get reminded that it's on before typing anymore. But some people don't like it, and I understand some software has you turn on the caps lock key for other reasons, so it could be a little bothersome to have this. A few other things about this feature. First, people get confused over this because they often use the color to describe this. For instance, what you see here is a blue indicator showing an up arrow. But it's only blue because that's the accent color in the app I'm using, in this case TextEdit. If I switch to Notes and I have the caps lock key on, you can see it's yellow because yellow is the special accent color for Notes. So people will say, I've got this blue indicator, and other people say, I've got this yellow indicator or orange indicator, and it gets confusing. It's just whatever the accent color is in the app. The other thing to know is that there's more than just the caps lock indicator. There are a few different ones. For instance, if you use dictation, and I'll use the default shortcut here to press Control twice on my keyboard, and it will turn on dictation, and you'll see an indicator that dictation is on and which language I'm using. So you can see that right there. So that's a second way that this indicator is used. Another way is if you switch languages. So that would be in System Settings, if you go to Keyboard, and then in there you go to Input Sources. And in here you add another source. So if you work in multiple languages, you may have multiple input sources for your keyboards. And then it shows an indicator here, and you could switch between them. Now, using this doesn't show any special indicator for the cursor. But notice here in Settings above Text Input, there's Press FN key too. And if you have that set to change input source, then look what happens when I use it. Here you can see it shows me all my input sources, and it shows me the one currently selected. So that's another spot where this new text cursor indicator is used. Now, before I show you how to turn this off, one thing I should note is some of you may be watching because this appears when you accidentally hit the caps lock key. And your intention may be that you just don't want to accidentally hit caps lock. And you can turn caps lock off completely. This is certainly how I use it. In the 40 plus years I've been using computers, I never use the caps lock key. If I want to capitalize something, I simply hold the Shift key down while I'm typing. Now, I know other people prefer caps lock or may be using special applications where you want to have caps lock on for a long period of time, so it's a little different for you. But if you do want to turn caps lock off, then you want to go in Keyboard to Keyboard Shortcuts, and then here in Modifier Keys, under the caps lock key, you want to simply turn it to No Action. And then the caps lock key won't work at all. And you need to use the Shift key, which won't show this special indicator when you use it, to capitalize when you type. And I know sometimes you want to type like a whole sentence or maybe more in capital letters for emphasis, but in word processing and desktop publishing apps, you don't really need to do this. Matter of fact, you shouldn't. For instance, here I've got some text, and let's say I want that to be all caps. I could retype it in caps, or I could select it. And in Pages here under Format, under Style, there is a little settings control here, and I could set this with capitalization as all caps. Now when I do that, this appears as all caps. But the important thing is it remembers which letters were capitalized and which weren't. It's just displaying them all as caps. So you get the benefits of having everything in caps, but if later on you change your mind, let's say this is 3 paragraphs, you can then go ahead and change it back to none, and you get back everything exactly as you typed it. So it's useful to know this if that's the reason that you use the caps lock key. But let's look at turning this feature off completely. You won't find any controls for this in Settings or anywhere else on your Mac. You have to go to the terminal to turn this off. So I'm going to go to Launchpad here and search for Terminal and then launch it. Now what you need to do is type a special command to set something in the system so that when it boots up, this feature is disabled. And here's that command. Let's break it down. First, sudo. That basically is saying that you need to enter your user password in order for this command to be executed. So it can't just be accidentally typed in. You have to have your user account password. Then defaults says we're going to handle some settings and we're going to write a new setting to a file. Then this is the file that's going to be written to. It's a file in the library folder, not your user library folder, but the top level library folder for all users. And in there, in the preferences folder, and then in a folder called feature flags, and a folder called domain, and then the file name finally is uikit.plist. You've got to type this exactly. Capitalization matters. And then the setting that is going to be defined here is redesign underscore text underscore cursor. So this is the setting that determines whether or not this appears. And it's going to add a dictionary definition to this that enabled is set to the Boolean value of no. So basically redesign text cursor is going to be no inside this uikit plist file. Now chances are you don't even have this file. Matter of fact, you probably don't even have the feature flags folder in library preferences, but this will create it. So if you do this, you'll actually get the file. You're going to have to enter your password. This should be the same as your user account password. And know that your user account definitely needs to be an admin user account. So if for some reason you're using a standard user account, that probably won't work. So now it's set, but nothing would have changed because you need to reboot first. Now some warnings here. Of course, this is not supported by Apple. There's no place on Apple's website or in the macOS documentation that's going to tell you that you can do this. This is a setting that's kind of hidden. It's kind of a secret that people have discovered works to change this. So if you want to do everything absolutely properly on your Mac, you shouldn't use this. You just need to learn to live with the new cursor indicators. And also, in the future, this may go away completely. In a future version of macOS, this setting may just be ignored and the cursor indicators are always there. But if you feel you really need to do this, you really want to get rid of these, you can give this a try if you're willing. Let's go ahead and reboot your Mac. Obviously, you shouldn't have any documents open or anything like that. It'll prompt you to save them, but it's a good idea just to make sure. Then you want to go to the Apple menu and then restart. So now that we've restarted, we can notice that if we turn on the caps lock key, which I just did, nothing happens. Nothing appears there. So that's off. What about the other indicators? Well, if I were to turn on dictation, the new cursor indicator doesn't appear, but it does revert to doing the previous behavior, which is to show this indicator. And you can see that right there. So you may remember that from versions of macOS before Sonoma. And the same thing for if you switch languages. So remember, I press the FN key and you could see I get that indicator in the middle of the screen now showing me which language I'm in. That's how it worked before Sonoma. So considering those things still need to be supported in macOS Sonoma and beyond in order for that to work, you can see why I'm skeptical that you'll be able to use this terminal command to change the setting in the future. Future versions of macOS simply may not have those things in there, and therefore setting it to yes may simply not work. We'll just have to wait and see, but it seems to work fine now in Sonoma. Now you should have turned this off. You can use exactly the same command except change the no at the end to yes, like that, on all caps. And when you press return, it will change the no to yes inside of this preference here, and then you restart your Mac and you should have those cursor indicators back. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video,
So that kind of went over my head. I'm unclear about what the redesigned cursor indicator he's talking about is. Is it just the pop-up when the caps lock is on and off?
Correct. It'll just disable that. Right
So he's not
now,
talking about the cursor itself.
no, it's that green thing that's saying keyboard or your caps lock on or and the reason I showed this was that before Sonoma, I got into I was somehow don't know how I switched the keyboard. I do have another keyboard. How it switched, and I was typing away, and everything came up underlined. Couldn't figure out what the heck it was, and well, I figured, well, before I reboot and that kind of stuff, John always says Google is your friend. And I Googled it, and Google, once somebody was out there indicating, hi, you must have a different language keyboard. Switch your input. And sure enough, I went to the input and it was pointing to the other language, which resolved the situation. So I don't know if anybody else does this, but it happened to me, and I saw this on one of the videos. Decided to show it to everybody else just in case. Yes, Mike.
It's happened to a number of my students when they're texting something or whatever, and they hit the little world icon down there and it switches to Spanish. So then they start talking and they're wondering why it's coming up, gosh knows whatever. Um, but yeah, it happens on phones too.
So, oh, it does, but they, to start with, have to add that into that, right? In order to create an option to be able to choose from.
I don't think
Yeah,
so. I think it comes straight with the phone.
oh, it does?
The little
Okay.
world thing down there, it clicks it in mine, it clicks it over to Spanish.
Huh.
I
I
had
thought,
a weird thing with Firefox I installed. I setting up a new computer and it all came up in the menus in some language I didn't understand. So, and you couldn't pull down the menus and find where to choose a different language. So I actually had to run App Cleaner and uninstall Firefox and go get a reinstall it to make it fix it. Which would have been a problem if I cared about any bookmarks or anything because I wiped everything out trying to fix it.
Yeah, it's kind
Actually,
of hard
I've had it happen before and I could never figure out what it was.
it's kind of hard when the menus you want to pull down are in a different
Yeah,
language.
it says how to do it somewhere, but where, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's Korean. I don't understand Korean.
I don't know. Yeah. It happened to me once before and I figured it out, but I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
John's got a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, quick one. I asked a stupid question. What is the FN key? Where the heck is it on the keyboard?
You may not have it. I think that's a MacBook keyboard thing to change the keys at the top on some of them where it says F keys instead of brightness, and you can invoke F keys. This has little brightness sound up and down on the skinny row of keys on the top of this one and have F1 through F12, and to invoke the F key, the function key, you have to hold the
Are you
FN
talking
key.
about the FN key at the far
Yes.
left of
Yeah.
the space bar?
In
Yes.
the bottom lower left of some keyboards, not all.
Yeah.
Well, I have the Apple keyboard with the 10 key in it. Right between the 10 key and the keyboard itself, there's like 3, 6, 9. There's F13, 14, and 15 on top. It's right under F13. So that's the Apple keyboard, though. Now, that's only not all keyboards probably carry that, or
So I have an old Chromecatcher keyboard, and that key on mine is labeled help, which I don't think does anything.
oh, is that what it is?
So on this crumb catcher here, the top row of keys, this one has F keys numbered.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have brightness and sound up and down. So those work as F keys. But the MacBooks, where it has two things, the brightness up and down, and the sound up and down, and then the F key also. When you push
Uh-huh.
it, it will do brightness or up and sound up and down unless you hold the FN key, then it reverts to a function key.
Okay.
Depends
On
on the
my-
keyboard you have.
Go ahead, John.
Go ahead, John. Sorry.
You muted, John.
Who is? Not
You're
me, not
muted,
this
John.
Oh, the other
John
John.
A.
John A, yes, sorry. There
Okay,
you go.
let's try it. Okay, I was trying to do what he was talking about on his video there, going system settings, going to keyboard, and when you go up there and you can see press FN key to do nothing, or you've got some options. Change input source, show emoji and symbols, start dictation, which would be kind of handy. But
Yeah.
where do you have this? I don't have an FN. I've got an expanded Apple board. I've
You
got
can't
F,
do it if you don't have an FN key.
so nothing takes the place of it, even the control key or anything else, huh?
Control key is separate. This keyboard has to the left of the space bar on the
Might
MacBook
have a
has
globe. Might be the
Yes.
globe.
Yeah.
No,
It's the bottom
I-
leftmost key.
no globe.
this
I gotta-
MacBook has Command Option Control FN. The Chrome catcher does not have the FN key, has one less key.
I've only used the FN key for my delete. So I can press the FN and it'll delete the other way as opposed to backing up, it'll go forward.
Also on this keyboard, which is my current keyboard, the caps lock lights up. I don't know if you can see that, and nothing
Yes.
appears on, and there's no pop-up on the screen.
Yeah, most
Yeah,
keyboards
mine's-
most keyboards have a lightable caps lock key.
Hmm.
And also when you're in typing a password in most places and you have the cap locks key now, they'll have a little up arrow at the end to indicate that you got that on.
Well, I was gonna add to what John was talking about. There is the audio input. Does that
Right.
mean does that also apply? I mean, only apply to a MacBook? Or
Typically,
Mac-
it only applies to MacBooks.
I think
right,
this has
because
this dictation will work on anything. Email, e-message,
No,
or
but-
IMs.
So
because you need a microphone, right?
Yeah, just like you're using. You've got a microphone. If you're on IM or in email
Oh, yeah,
or anything you want to print, once you start dictation, you just start talking and it walks right across the screen. But
Right.
it'd be nice to be able to get to it with a keyboard stroke rather than going into the option section and changing it.
I don't have a modern external keyboard, but so I don't know. Somebody would have to have one. Does it have brightness up and down and sound up and down on the top row?
Mine does. Mine's not modern though. I mean, I don't know what you mean by mine's around
Like
12 years
like a
old.
new modern thin one, a wireless modern
Oh.
keyboard.
No, I have the thin one, but it's a wired one. So yeah, it does the brightness up and down, the sound.
Oh,
I've
so
got
you
a-
do have that.
Oh,
So on those keys, do you have the little F numbers on there also?
yes, I do.
Yep.
Well, then you have an FN key.
I do.
Right.
And also, in those keyboards, the F5 key is the dictation key.
Ah,
So
Really?
any keyboard that has
It's
the
blank.
icons for brightness and sound up and down and it has F numbers also should have
Right.
an FN key.
no,
No?
extended Apple keyboards got F1 through F16. It's got volume up and down.
All right, so
but
then that means there is another way to invoke the F key, because by default you push brightness up and down and it works. If you want an F key, there's got to be an additional key to push to invoke that.
Would that be the globe key?
Yes.
I don't have a globe key. That's what I was looking for. In fact,
Google it. Google is your friend. Ask it how.
Oh, that's probably true.
Yeah, but if we Googled everything, the meeting would get a lot shorter.
Well, nobody knows the answer. There has to be a way, if it's a
John,
dual function, to switch the function. Has to
Don,
be.
Don Nelson is showing us something.
Yes.
Yeah, the keyboard's black though, man. Oh, look at that. The middle end, is that the end key?
I don't see Don.
Don, you're muted.
He's muted.
No, no, you turned off your video. You didn't unmute.
It's in that center section, and it's right above the key that says delete, and it's just to the left of the home key.
Oh yeah, that's where
FN.
the FN key is.
Yeah.
It's a weird place to have it, but that's where it is.
I don't see it on the Chromecatcher, but I don't. All the Chromecatcher has is dedicated F keys. It doesn't have up and down brightness and stuff. Yeah, now that if you've got an extended keyboard with a numeric keypad and then another row with up, left, down, home, all those C's, I remember seeing an FN key in there.
The globe key, I Googled it. The globe key is the same as function key. Function key.
Okay. Okay.
But if you don't have either one.
Hmm.
We don't know. That's an awful lot of discussion about that video. I thought that was a pretty obscure topic.
Yeah. I'll go.
Okay. The next one is, if we don't have any more comments regarding this one here, is about take advantage of your recent files. Oops, what this? And folders and application lists. And then provided to you with the latest actions of recent items to make easier for you to find everything else. Let's see what he's got to say about that.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let's take a look at accessing recent files, folders, applications, and other things on your Mac. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now, when you open a file on your Mac, it could be that you're opening an old file, one that you haven't used for a long time. But it's more likely that you're accessing a file that you recently used. When you go to access something, it's just more probable that the thing that you want to access is something you have recently accessed. Therefore, Apple has made it very easy to access recent things on your Mac. Let's start by taking a look at the Apple menu. In here, there's an item called Recent Items, and there are several sections to this. The first one is Applications. It shows you recently opened applications. Chances are one of these is the application you're going to use next. And just below it, you'll see Documents. So here are files that are also the most recent ones that you accessed. By going to the Apple menu Recent Items, chances are the next action you want to take is one of these things. You'll also find recent items if you go to the File menu in almost any application. So for instance, here in Pages, if I go to File, I could certainly go to Open and then find the file I want. But just underneath Open is Open Recent. And here I'm going to see a list of files. These are the most recently accessed files in Pages. So chances are the one I want to work on next is one of these files. And I don't have to use the Open dialog at all. I can just select it from here. Now if you do go to Open in an application, you'll get the Open dialog. And here you'll have a location here at the top. And one of the things you'll notice is a section called Recent Places. So this actually shows you a list of folders, locations that is, where you recently accessed files. So chances are if you're trying to open a file, you can find it in a recently used place, and you can get to that in any File Open or File Save dialog by just clicking here at the top and looking for recent places. Now the dock is also another place where you can find recent items. If you go to an app here in the dock, say Pages, and you click and hold or control click on it, it will bring up a menu and you'll see the ability to open pages. You also see a list of recently accessed documents in Pages. So instead of opening Pages and then opening the document, I can just choose the document right here, open it like that, and now Pages launches and it opens that document. Once Pages is open, you can still click and hold here, and while there are more options here, you still have the list of recent documents at the top. Also in the dock on the left, you'll have the Finder, and if you click and hold that, you're going to see a list of recently used folders. So these are probably your most commonly used folders, and if you need to open a Finder window and go to a specific location. Now, depending upon your settings, you may also see some recent items listed in the dock. If you go to System Settings and then go to Desktop and Dock, there's Show Suggested and Recent Apps in the dock. So now you're going to see this section here between the left section and the right section. You can see the two lines around it that will show any apps that you have opened that is not normally in the dock, and also up to 3 apps that are opened that are not normally in the dock, but you've recently used them. So I launched and quit Chess and Terminal, and you can see now those items are here listed in this special section because they're recently used apps that aren't normally in the dock. Now there's another way to see recently accessed documents in an app. So here I am in Pages. Now if I invoke Expose, which is Control and then down arrow, I will see a list of recently accessed docs right here, and I can select one and it will open. And you can see I could control down arrow again and I get the currently open windows here, and I could open another one here, and you can see I've got 2 open now. So Expose shows me the 2 open ones and also still the recents here at the bottom. Also in the Finder, you've got the Go menu. Under Go, you've got recent folders, and you're going to see a list of recent folders. It's the same list that you would find in the dock if you click and hold the Finder. Also, if you're using the Finder and you use Go and then go to Folder or Shift Command G, it brings up this interface here where you get type the path to a folder and then go to that folder. And notice that it actually remembers the recent ones you've typed. So for instance, if I were to type the path to the movies folder in my home folder like that and go to it, now if I use Go and go to Folder, then if I clear it out, see under Recents, it shows me that one, and I could just select it. Now when you're in the Finder, also you may see a Recents item here under Favorites in the left sidebar. You can click that to go to the Recents view, or you can choose Go and then Recents even if it's not in your sidebar. If you select that, then you're going to get a list of Recents. Don't confuse this with a folder or location on your Mac. This is not a location. These files are all over the place on your hard drive. For instance, if I select this one, I could see here at the bottom that it is in Documents Projects. But if I select this one, I could see it's in Documents Examples. So this is like doing a search for your most recently opened files and then having a list of them sorted by date with the most recent one first. So it's an easy way to get to all your recent files. Just use the Recents view in the Finder to see them. And if you want it here or don't want it here, you could switch it on or off by going to Finder and then Settings and then go to Sidebar. And this is where you could turn on or off Recents. Now another way to view recent things is to use Spotlight. Just do Command Space to bring up a Spotlight search. Now if I were to search for something, like say type test, one of the things it's going to show me is documents, and it's going to give me a list of documents here with Show More next to it. The list it shows me is going to favor recent documents heavily. So these suggestions here are going to be recent ones. Now I could always click Show More and get a full file search on this, but it is interesting to note that your Spotlight results are actually showing you recent items. Furthermore, you could do something like search for Pages and then look under Documents, and it's going to show you Pages documents. And you can see here the little short list is the most recent ones. If I were to click Show More, it's going to do the full search in the Finder, and note that it can sort easily by date last opened. So you could see your most recent things in any search that you do by having the date last opened column here and sorting by it. If you don't see date last opened after doing a Finder search, you can always control click right here in the headers and make sure date last opened is checked. Now most of the time when you're viewing recent items, there's a certain number of them, like 10 right here. You have control of that. You can go to System Settings, Then under Control Center, if you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see recent documents, applications, and servers. And there's a setting for that here. So you can set it to the default 10, or you can go all the way up to 50 to make those lists really long. And a lot of different recent lists will obey this number here, including choosing none, where it actually doesn't show recents at all. If I chose none here, this menu would actually just disappear. So if you don't see it there, maybe that's why. Now, there are other places where it could be handy to access recent items. For instance, in a browser. All browsers have a browser history. Like here in Safari, you can go to the history menu and you could see the recent history, and then you have a variety of different days here below as well. You can also choose show all history and it'll just give you a big list. This is particularly handy if you want to go revisit some web pages from earlier in the day, or maybe yesterday or the day before. Instead of trying to remember where you went, you could just use show all history and then choose the web pages from there. You'll find recents in other places as well. For instance, in Pages, if you go to the template chooser to choose a new document, you're going to end up with a set of recents here at the top. Notice it's an item right here. So it's going to notice the recent templates that you've used. Most people only use a handful of templates in Pages. So chances are the one you need next is probably just one of these. And here the same is true in Numbers as well. You can see your recents at the top. This is all my recently used templates. So instead of going through all of these, chances are I can find the one I want right here. Here's the Freeform app, and the Freeform app here under the list of boards has a list of recent boards. The Notes app also has recents here in the left sidebar for easy access to your most recently used notes. So look for different ways that recent items are shown in the apps that you use the most. You'll find that going to these recent lists and finding what you need there can be a lot quicker than using, say, File Open or looking at the entire list of items available to you. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
Any questions?
So there's also the default folder X extension that I've been using for many years that adds a lot of recent accessibility to various places in the UI. You guys use default folder X? It's been around forever.
There's also, if you Office doesn't allow you to get rid of the recents, it'll stack them up forever. And you have to get rid of them one by one. Also, in the URL bar, if you click on the magnifying glass, you'll get recent Google searches or whatever search engine you're using.
Well, that's helpful, really, because what got me to show you this was that long time ago, when I started out with Macs, or I noticed that when you display a file or a document, and bear with me, I'm having video issues right now. But anyway, when you display a document in Windows, in a Windows system, there is an option where you set it up at the beginning where it lists at the bottom of your document, if you print it, at the bottom of your document, exact location of where the document came from. Well, it was different for me. We're using on a Mac. I mean, working with the Mac side, where it printed a document with no way of knowing where this came from. In other words, I have a document, but I need to know where it comes from. So I decided to write something. There's got to be a way to do this. So I noticed that when you display a document, it'll show you where it's coming from. It'll tell you your hard drive, your this folder, that folder, this folder, and finally the name of the file. Well, I decided to write something down like that using Unix, and it's like a one-line piece of code, and it's what's called a glob. Mainly, there's characters in there that really mean nothing to people who anyway don't work with it anyway. What happened was it took me forever, and I don't know what I did. I don't know if I even gave it a name or anything, and I somehow lost control of computer. All of a sudden, the file disappeared. I don't know. I didn't know if I saved it or anyway. And I figured, oh my goodness, I spent all this time. And believe it or not, the last thing I went to was, well, let's see if Macs save everything, on their own before disaster and stuff like that, it should be someplace. So I went uh, to recents, and bingo, there is this thing there without a name. I open it up and it's the glob that I was working on. Needless to say, it didn't work. I had to put more work to it. But anyway, that's how I found it. It came in handy. I didn't even think about it at that time, but it did save me some work from that point on. So recents, it just keeps a list of the recent documents you worked on or applications you opened or whatever. But anyway, anybody else has anything to say?
Yes, the long hold on the dock in all the apps is just marvelous.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Really? A long hold?
Yes.
Oh, good. Good. I'll keep that in mind.
Say again, long hold on the doc folder?
Yes. For instance, if you're wanting to do something in Pages and you don't remember, what it was, well, you can have a list of up to 50 of them show by a long hold on the dock on the Pages app.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, that's good. Thank you. Much appreciated. The next one is it's by Gary, and it's about make web articles easier to read in Safari Reader View. I found that I'm having problems on some websites getting to Reader View. So let's hear what he's got to say.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let me show you how Reader View in Safari can make it easier to read articles online. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So Reader View has been around in Safari for many years, but I know it could be easy to forget it's there. Even I forget sometimes and end up just reading an article on the regular web page. But with Reader View, you can really focus on the text and you can get rid of a lot of the ads and other distractions on a page. So let's say you're on a web page like this, one that's mostly a text article. In most cases, if you look up here in the address bar, you'll see this little icon here that indicates Reader View. Matter of fact, if you put your pointer over it, you can see how it says Show Reader View there. It's going to look a little different if you're in the compact tabs view, and I'll show you that in a minute. But when you do see this icon, it just means that Safari has recognized that this page is mostly an article and it's giving you this button to easily switch to Reader View. But you don't need to have this button here. You could also go to the View menu and then use Show Reader or the keyboard shortcut Shift-Command-R. As a matter of fact, this will work on pages even if you don't see this icon. For instance, here on the MacMost About page, Safari doesn't feel this is a long enough article to warrant that button, so it's not there. But you can still go to Reader View by choosing View, Show Reader, or the keyboard shortcut. So let's turn on Reader View here with the button, and you can see what it looks like. It kind of looks like a piece of paper with even a shadow around it. And it just takes the text from the article. It uses some formatting, like it recognizes headings, for instance, and makes them larger. It'll also show links in blue. It'll show things that are bolded and italicized and other styles. But for the most part, it makes everything kind of a uniform font to make it very easy to read. And you can notice that the text size is usually quite a bit larger than what you see on the web page. And it's very easy to scroll through it and read the article without all the distractions. In most cases, you won't see the ads. You won't see navigation elements or links to other articles, things like that. In addition, if you look at the top in the address bar, you'll see this little button that's a small and large letter A. That's the Reader Appearance Options button. And you can click that, and it will reveal this little panel here that'll allow you to increase or decrease the font size. You can change the background color like that, and you can choose from a variety of fonts that make it easier to read text on your screen. So choose whichever one you think is best. To exit Reader View, you can click this button again, or you can use the View menu or the keyboard shortcut. You can also just click outside of this virtual piece of paper here. Like click in this area and it will exit. Also note that Reader View obeys dark and light mode. So if I go up to Control Center here and under Display, I turn on dark mode. Notice how Reader View reacts nicely to this. Now let's switch to the compact tab view. I'll go into Safari Settings and under Tabs, I'll switch to Compact. And you can see it looks a little different here at the top. And I don't see the button here to switch to Reader View. However, you can still click the three dots button here, and one of the options that you'll see is Reader View. And of course you could still use the View menu option and the keyboard shortcut to switch into Reader View. Notice here in Reader View I do get this icon indicating it, and I can click it to dismiss Reader View. I could also click the three dots button when in Reader View and choose Reader Appearance, and it brings up the controls as before. Note that when you're in Reader View, you don't necessarily need to use this button here and these two buttons at the top to adjust the size. You could actually use the standard View menu, zoom in and zoom out options here. Keyboard shortcuts are Command plus or minus. So Command plus makes the font bigger, Command minus makes it smaller. If you make it much bigger, you can use Command and then 0 to go back to the default size. Moving through a document in Reader View can be as simple as just using the same scrolling gestures on a trackpad or on the surface of a mouse to scroll up and down. But you can use keyboard shortcuts as well. The down arrow key will move down approximately 1 or 2 lines, and the up arrow as well. If you use the Option key and down, you'll go approximately 1 page, and Option up to go up 1 page. And then the Command key and down will go to the end, or Command and up to go to the top. You can also use the page up and page down buttons or home and end buttons if you have a keyboard that has those. If you don't, you can use the FN or globe key, and FN and down goes down a page and up goes up a page. FN and right goes to the end, and FN and left goes home. The variety of different things you can do when you're in reader mode. You can, for instance, select text just like you can anywhere else. And with that text selected, you can control click, 2-finger click on a trackpad, or right click on a mouse. And then you can bring up the context menu. And here you can do various things, like you can look up words, you can use the translation feature, and you can also use speech and start speaking to have it speak text to you. It's often easier to use these in Reader View than it is looking at the regular web page, because sometimes selecting text on the regular web page gives you text you don't want, maybe navigation elements and such. Whereas here you can just focus on the article text. Another great thing you can do with Reader View is get cleaner printouts for articles. So if I go back to the regular web page here and I use File and then Print, I can see a preview here of what the page looks like. So it looks basically like the article does on the regular web. However, if I were to go into Reader View first and then go to File, Print, I get a printout that looks a lot like Reader View. That's going to be a lot easier on my printer ink for one thing, maybe easier to read on paper as well. It'll even obey the settings you've got here. So I can go into the settings, let's make the font size a lot smaller and change the font, and then maybe put this background here. And now if I go to File and then Print, you can see it doesn't bother with the background, but it is making the font smaller and the right font choice according to our settings. You can also use this to save as PDF. Either go into File, Print, and then click the PDF button, or you can just go to File and then Export as PDF. And the PDF you get is going to look like the Reader View version, not the web page version. Reader View also makes copying and pasting easier. If I were to select text like this, it's not going to maybe accidentally select other parts of the web page like navigational elements, and I could copy and then paste into another document and get something a little cleaner. Notice how the Reader View version of this page didn't include the image, but that's not always true. For instance, if I go to this news story here, Notice how there are ads, there are navigation elements, and all sorts of things, but also some images. If I use Reader View, I don't get all the ads or navigational elements, but I do get some of the images. How it looks exactly is going to vary from website to website. Some websites may have articles that fit really well with Reader View, while others have confusing elements and Reader View doesn't show you the whole article, maybe doesn't grab the pictures, or maybe grabs elements that you think shouldn't be included. You also have the ability to set a website to always be seen in Reader View. So for instance, here I am in Wikipedia. Let's go to Safari, Settings, and I'm going to go to Websites. And the first item here on the left is Reader. Select that. It's going to show you any sites where you've changed the default for Reader View, or any sites that you currently have open. You see I have these 3 tabs open. Let's, for Wikipedia, set this to on. You also have the ability here, when visiting other websites, to choose on or off. I highly recommend you use off. The reason for that is sometimes you could be missing important parts of the web page if you only see them in Reader View. The best experience is to view the web page first, see what's there, and then when you know you want to read just the text of the article, then go into Reader View. So now that we've got Wikipedia set to always on, notice how this article here is going to show Reader View. I can easily still switch out of it. If I go to the main Wikipedia page, if I choose any article, like say this one here, you can see how it automatically switches into Reader View. And I could still turn it off if I want to see the regular page. Other web browsers have similar things. For instance, there's a Reader View in Firefox, but of course it's a different browser, so you're going to get different results when you use this Reader View. Chrome, of course, is made by Google, which makes most of its money through web advertising. So Reader View really isn't in its best interest. But it does have a mode that if you go to the 3 dots button at the top right, you go to More Tools, and then you can turn on Reading Mode. It doesn't get rid of the web page, so you would still see ads and other things here on the majority of the page. But it does give you this little Reader View to the right side of that, so you can focus on the text over here, change the font sizes and other things. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
Well,
I love the
that's
Reader View
Reader
Save as
View.
PDF. It's makes very nice savable articles.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Oh, thanks. You know, I just discovered this in Google. I wish he'd showed that. I was a little discouraged. It's probably like Chrome then, that you can't get rid of those ads. I just was clicking back and forth on the, Google website. I saw that they do have a reader. So appreciate this. Is good timing. I'm going to look further into that. Thank you.
It doesn't. I can't get it to work on at certain times,
It's
and
it's
I
not
don't understand if
available.
the article.
It doesn't work on all web pages.
Yeah, I've had to update articles as well.
I always. You mean there are some there must be some kind of parameters for it. In other words, in other words, if the article is not long enough, it won't, or something.
What he said was, if it's not long enough, the little bars won't appear, but you can still go to the menu and invoke it.
Yeah, that was the best. That was the best part of that article to me.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either.
Hmm.
So there is a while back, I paid for a Chrome extension that gave you Reader View, even though the full Reader View isn't built into Chrome. I forget what it was called, but you can't buy let's see, what is it called? It's called Reader Mode Pro. It wasn't free though.
Oh,
In the next release of Mac OS, once they incorporate Apple Intelligence, when you go to Reader View at the top, there's a summarize button.
So, Gary, do you think that basically this AI stuff is basically like the same? all the other stuff is like Google. If you Google stuff, the first thing you get is a summarized version of the whole thing. So is that what we're going to get with Apple also?
Probably
Well,
something,
actually,
probably
I'm
something.
I'm running Mac OS 15.1, which actually has the beginnings of Apple Intelligence. And you get summarized email when the list of email messages, they are summarized rather than just a few lines. And you can summarize articles in Safari and so on.
I guess it remains to be seen how accurate those summaries are, right?
They're pretty good. And right now, every time I use it, it pops up the feedback app because I'm in a beta version. So they are gathering statistics on how well it's doing. You get to do a thumbs up or thumbs down on every summary.
It's probably not bad because they're working with a limited amount of text and they're not going and making stuff up. They're only summarizing your email. That's not a lot of information.
Actually, the email summaries are very helpful because when you see the list of mail, you immediately know what the thing is about rather than just the headers that show up normally.
Oh, I want to see that. I mean, it's actually going to be something you can.
That'll probably be helpful for people who get tens of thousands of unread mailing
Oh,
lists.
jeez.
They can just summarize a whole bunch of them and just get rid of them that they never read.
Oh, speaking of tens of thousands of messages, let me just throw this out. It's not, somebody posted online that I saw today that they suddenly got barraged with spam in their email account. And they said, what is this? I got like 1,000 messages all at once. One of the messages that got buried in all that spam was somebody had stolen a credit card from them and bought $1,000 computer on Costco.
Aye.
And that the barrage of spam was to hide that alert. So if that ever happens to you, maybe check out your
Spam.
your
I
account.
noticed just in the last few days, it wasn't so bad today, but all of a sudden, my Mac.com address, and this used to happen in the past, got like 50 in a day where it was getting 5. It's like all of a sudden, boom, for a couple of days, and then it tapered back off.
I check my credit cards every morning.
I should do something like that. I just realized that I'm being charged $12 every 3 months for the Mac Life magazine that stopped publishing 3 years ago, but they kept billing me for it.
There's
Well,
an
yeah,
app
just
for that they advertise on Mac Break where it summarizes all your subscriptions and says, "Oh, here's all your subscriptions," and they let you push the button and get rid of them, unsubscribe to those subscriptions. I can't remember what it
Mac
is
Life
now.
hasn't ceased. I get it every month.
As digital,
It's digital only
Oh,
now.
yeah, digital.
but I'm paying $12 every 3 months for the combo subscription that stopped a long time ago.
Call Future Publications. That's the company.
Hmm.
Any more comments? No got another video?
Yeah, we have another one. This is about it's by Gary again. And this is about embracing the latest technology for those of us that might say, well,
Don't
enough is
change
enough.
anything. You see, but don't
Yeah,
change anything.
that's right. So here we go.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Here are some tips for embracing change in technology and learning new things. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to macmost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now, I often hear from people that they don't like it when there are new changes to the operating systems they use or the software apps that they use. Sometimes these changes mean you need to learn new things in order to keep using the software, or there are new features that you need to learn how to use because they could be useful to you. Change in technology is inevitable. All of our devices use software, and that software updates whether or not we buy a new device. So you're going to run into situations where you need to learn new things. It could be much better to think of this as a good thing, as the opportunity to learn something new, to explore, and to expand your horizons. But if you struggle with it, here are some tips that may help you. First, don't be afraid of the new. When software is changed, it's done by professional software engineers and user interface designers. It's not like you're wandering through the forest and you turn a corner and anything can be there. The changes have been well thought out, and they know that they're going to be new to everybody. So they've intentionally made these changes in such a way to help people learn to use them. Keep that in mind when you see something is new, and don't be afraid to move forward to learn how to use that new feature. My second tip is to learn how to explore in order to learn things. Not everything is going to be thrown right in front of you as this is a new feature and here's how to use it. Longtime Mac users and experts know to, for instance, explore the menus in an app. See what's there, see what's new, and if you find something that's new or just new to you, try it out. If I select some text here and go to Format, I've got all of these different options. I can explore these and try out new things. Also, go into Settings for any app and look through all the different settings. Go into System Settings and then look through all of those and see what's there. Not everything is going to apply to you, but if you take the time to go through this, then you'll probably find new things that you could use. This is exactly what Mac experts do. This is exactly what I do. When people ask me, how do I know so much about using Macs and using all of the apps? It's because I explore them. Next, remember to learn at your own pace. Some people can pick up things very quickly. Others will take a much longer time. Don't worry if instead of hours, it takes days or weeks to learn something new. Sometimes a slower learning process can lead to greater mastery. And don't be intimidated by experts that seem to be able to pick up things very quickly. Everybody learns different things at a different pace. You may pick up some things quickly and other things may take some time. That's perfectly fine and normal. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. One thing that almost all apps have in common is the undo function. And you can get to it in Edit Undo or just Command Z. So if you go and make a mistake, like say I want to make this a different color and I choose a bad color there, I don't have to worry about how do I now proceed. I can just go use Edit, Undo, or Command Z to go back. And you can go back several steps. It's often said that making mistakes is the best way to learn. And I think that's very true when it comes to using software. After all, the only way to completely avoid making mistakes is only do things when you're absolutely certain they'll do exactly what you want. But without experimentation, you're not really going to learn anything new. So learn to embrace making mistakes and use undo to go back steps. And along those same lines, learn to experiment using sample documents or creating sample items. For instance, if you want to learn how to use Keynote, the way to do it is not to wait till you need to make a presentation. It's to play around and create a sample presentation. Just go in, create a basic presentation, try adding things, add shapes, add images, add animations, play around with styles and colors and all of that. Just create a sample document and then delete it, and then create another sample document and then delete it. This is the best way to learn things, not by creating the things you need to make, but by experimenting. And this is true for smaller items as well. For instance, if you've never created a calendar event that gives you a notification, go ahead and create one. Set it for 5 minutes from now. Create the entire event and then wait those 5 minutes and see what happens. In the Contacts app, create a sample contact. Go into Edit. See all the different things you can do with the contact and all the different fields that you can add. Play around with it and then just delete it when you're done, or keep it around as a playground that you can use to experiment with later on. Now, even if you embrace all of these ideas, you can still get frustrated when trying to learn something new. it's important to remember to take breaks. Even an expert like myself will do it. Recently, when switching from other languages to using Swift, I learned Swift pretty quickly over the matter of a week or two. But I still remembered that when I got frustrated, to take a break, take a walk, wait till the next day, and then get back to it. Don't keep trying to push through the frustration, as that's just going to make it harder to learn. Be aware of your own biases and try to fight against them. For instance, if you've used Excel a lot over your career, you may have a bias against numbers. You may have decided that numbers isn't going to be as good as Excel, and then you just simply don't use numbers. Try to be your own devil's advocate. Open up numbers, create a sample document, and go with the idea that maybe numbers has some value to it and could be useful in addition to or instead of Excel. Think about where else you are biased. What features of macOS or your iPhone do you avoid because you think it's not as good as some other app or some other way of doing it? And at least try going against your own bias to see if maybe there's something there that you've been missing. And also think about where you've inherited other people's biases. For instance, maybe you've heard over and over again that the Mail app on your Mac isn't as good as other mail apps or using web-based mail. But is that the case? Millions of people use Mail, and Apple keeps improving it with every version of Mac OS, so there must be something to it. Maybe think about where the bias comes from. It could just be something you've been shown or something that you read at some point, and try to fight against that. Experiment and play around with the app or technique that you've been avoiding. But that said, not everything is going to be for you, and that's okay. Mac OS and the iPhone and the iPad include lots of different apps and different techniques, and they're not going to apply to every single person. So it's okay to see an app, like for instance, Freeform is an app that a lot of people recently have fallen in love with. But maybe you play around with it and you don't see the point. You don't actually have a use for it. That's okay. There are plenty of people that use and rely on spreadsheets every day. But there are also plenty of people that never ever need to open up a spreadsheet at all. It just doesn't apply to them. So by all means, experiment and explore as much as you possibly can. But it's okay after seeing something to realize that you may not have a use for it. Or maybe you don't have a use for it right now. So it still can be useful to know about it and what it can do, but it doesn't mean you now have to use it for something in your everyday life. Now finally, enjoy exploring and learning new things on your Mac, iPhone, and iPad by setting aside time to do just that. The best time to learn something is when you don't really need to use it right now. So play around with numbers, play around with Keynote, play around with GarageBand and iMovie, and take the time to just learn those things when there's no pressure, when you've got no specific task you need to do, when there's no deadline. One way to do that is use videos like mine. A lot of people get to my videos because they need to do something, they search and they find one of my videos. But other people actually just see the videos as they come out and they watch them and maybe play around with whatever it is I'm talking about right there and then, even if they don't have a specific task that they need to do right now. If you find you've been frustrated with learning new things, it could be because you're waiting to learn them until you need them. Instead, learn to use these new things just on your own time when there's no pressure. So remember that our devices like our Macs, iPhones, and iPads are truly marvels of the modern world. Just a few decades ago, having things like this was impossible, no matter how much money you had. But now so many people can have these devices and do amazing things with them. Take the time to think of how great that is and how it can make working more efficient and unleash your creativity. And when there's a change or new feature, think of how that's an opportunity to explore and learn something new. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
Well, so much for that. What I was hoping to get out of this is when he was gonna maybe hopefully say, well, the old saying, Apple take it away. Then my thing is, there's always, when I learn, I'm becoming comfortable with it, with an option, all of a sudden the new upgrade takes that away or changes it or puts it in a different place. But I guess that wasn't what he was talking about. So I guess, yeah, experimentation is how you become comfortable with something. Any comments or more?
Yeah, I thought he was talking directly to John, saying, get over your resistance to the new settings menus.
I'm I'm
Oh,
like John too. I'm telling you.
I got bad news for you. They've changed again in the next release.
Oh,
To,
jeez. Here
to
we go
what?
again. Yeah.
To,
What's it look like?
They've just been reorganized.
Is it an improvement? That's okay. I didn't learn the other ones, the old ones, so I won't be a problem. The search in the settings, search is your friend. You don't know where nothing
Yes,
is, just search for it.
So,
It's great.
exactly.
so does it look like I still iOS kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't make it so you can make it wider, right? It's narrow, like it's on a vertical phone. You can't make it wider.
Flat file. Yeah. Mhm.
Low priority.
But I know people who are really that John is not resistant. I know people who are so resistant to change it's impossible to talk to them about new things. So I hope this was gonna help. And maybe somebody like him who said, I learned Swift in 2 weeks. Well, okay, that's you. Some people take longer. Yours truly here for one.
If you want to
Although,
see some resistant people, check out the low-end Mac forums. There are people in there that are, let's say, no, they're sticking with Mac OS 9.
Well,
yeah,
there's
there you go.
people,
That's a real operating system.
there's plenty of people who have old software and they know how to use it like PageMaker and they don't want to change. They don't want to pay for InDesign, so they keep an old ancient machine around that'll run just that.
Or
I have
Quark.
to identify
Oh,
with you.
I have people two people who swear by Quark. They don't like InDesign. So one of them is running. It won't even run on High Sierra. It's still on. I don't know. I can't even remember something ancient. But it works. You don't change anything. The machine does not change, and it works for it. The problem is everything else you use on machine that goes to the web browsers, you can't. They're all ancient, and the email clients get anything goes to the internet. If there wasn't from the internet, wouldn't have a problem. Everything would just work. It's the internet that kills you. The other end changes. You have no control of it.
So who do we blame? Al Gore? He said, I invented internet. Man, now we get all these changes.
I just
Yeah,
wonder how are they in 20 years, how are researchers going to read our old files that are obsolete?
yeah,
Well,
they won't
depends.
need to read them. They'll just hear them.
huh, huh.
The only thing that's
It's
permanent is change.
it's called LibreOffice.
LibreOffice will open any word
There you
processing
go.
file ever made on any computer forever.
That's right.
So that word processing is not a problem. It's something like Adobe Illustrator or Quark Express. Those are proprietary files, and even in that particular app, if you go forward one or two versions, it usually will import them because they sell you a new version. But if you have to go backwards, you can't open a new Quark file in an old version of Quark or Illustrator. There's no hope for you.
I have some old FileMaker Pro databases that won't open because in the version of FileMaker that I have.
But the answer to that is if you can get it open in an old version, you can export it out as a CVS file or a
CVS
tab
file.
delimited file, and the data is actually there, and you can open it up in something else.
I've had LibreOffice even open a Right Now file.
It'll open. I haven't ever seen a word processing document that it wouldn't open. It's unbelievable. Shall we time to do general Q&A and end the recording? Anybody else got any questions about the videos we saw? You can end your screen share. And we will go to view. There we go. And I will say, DVMUG members who are watching this on YouTube, you know the drill. You can get the Q&A recording that's coming up next on the BBS. Okay, we'll see you later.